Welcome back to The Explainer. So, today we are jumping straight into a massive mystery, one that's sitting right at the absolute cutting edge of artificial intelligence and neuroscience. We're going to break down a fascinating research paper that completely challenges exactly how we evaluate artificial vision models against the human brain. Now, if you've been following neuro AI, you know there's this intense race going on to build AI that processes the visual world exactly like we do. But as it turns out, our primary method of keeping score, it might be hiding a massive blind spot. And the stakes here are absolutely huge. Right now, tech companies are pouring billions of dollars into massive compute clusters, training these next-generation vision models, all while relying on an evaluation metric that might be telling them their models are human-like, when in reality, they're actually fundamentally alien.
Okay, let's dive into this with a foundational question. For years, the industry has relied heavily on a very specific metric. Basically, if a neural network's internal representations can accurately predict how human visual cortices light up when looking at an image, we just assume it's brain-like. But does high prediction accuracy actually mean an AI sees like a human? Or is it just getting the right answers using completely alien geometry? You know, kind of like a student arriving at the correct math answer on a test, but using completely the wrong formula.
Here is our roadmap for today's deep dive. 1. We'll tackle the neuro-AI alignment problem. 2. Defining a human baseline. 3. We'll get the predictive subspace framework explained. 4. Look at the recovery profile. 5. Exposing hidden model mismatches. And finally, 6. The future of neuro-AI.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the neuro-AI alignment problem.
So, meet the flawed protagonist of our story. For the longest time, the absolute holy grail of neuro-AI has been single scalar scores. We're talking about a basic overall prediction accuracy metric. Now, you might be wondering, why is that single number so incredibly seductive to researchers? Well, because it's easy. It's super easy for developers to track on a leaderboard and optimize their models against. But researchers are finally waking up to the fact that relying on one single average number is fundamentally limited. The old way, that basic prediction accuracy, gives us a single scalar score that just shows an average match. It only tells us how well an AI predicts brain activity overall, just kind of blurring all the intricate neural details together into a smoothie. The new way, which this research proposes, uses what they call target space recovery profiles. This is a real game changer because it doesn't just ask if the AI matched the brain on average. No, it asks which specific dimensions of the brain's highly complex response space the AI actually nailed.
The researchers honestly put it perfectly in the paper. They explicitly state, prediction accuracy does not reveal which response dimensions are recovered. Think about that for a second. You could easily have two entirely different AI models that predict brain responses with the exact same 80% accuracy score, right? But underneath the hood, they might be recovering completely different sets of neural dimensions. Like we said earlier, it's literally like two students getting a B on a test, but they got entirely different questions wrong. That overall grade completely hides the specific crucial gaps in their knowledge.
Moving right along to Section 2, defining a human baseline.
Before we can even start comparing artificial networks to human brains, we have a major hurdle. We absolutely have to establish, mathematically, how human brains compare to other human brains. We need a ground truth baseline to work from. And this is where the researchers define the reproducible target reference. They took this incredible dataset, the natural scenes dataset, where human subjects sat inside an fMRI machine and viewed the exact same natural images multiple times. Now, raw fMRI data is notoriously, famously noisy. Sure, a subject's brain is processing the image of a dog or a house, but they also might be consciously registering their own heartbeat, noticing their breathing, randomly thinking about what they're going to have for lunch, or just blinking. It's chaotic in there. So by taking independent trial splits from the same subject viewing the same image, the researchers isolated only the brain signals that consistently fire every single time that specific image is shown. This completely strips away all that random biological noise and isolates the true, reproducible visual signal.
The methodology here is just brilliant. Look at how they set this up. The process works by first conducting target reference estimation. The researchers split those fMRI trials into a split A and a split B to mathematically extract that shared, consistent human signal within a single person. Okay, so once they know exactly what the reproducible signal looks like in a target brain, they can actually use another human brain as a source. They map the source brain's responses onto the target brain to see how well one human's reproducible dimensions predict another human's reproducible dimensions. What does this do? It establishes a noise ceiling. It basically tells us, theoretically, the absolute maximum alignment score we can ever expect to see. Because Let's face it, nothing is ever going to be more human-like in processing an image than another actual human brain.
All right, let's get into Section 3, the predictive subspace framework explained.
Now, what's really interesting about this framework is that you can think of this new analytical engine as a mathematical magnifying glass. It finally allows us to see the multidimensional alignment between an AI and a human brain. This is the grand overview of the whole workflow. An image goes into both a human brain and an AI model at the exact same time. The brain responses are averaged and split to create that reproducible target reference we just defined. Then, the model's internal network representations are pushed through a predictive subspace fitting process. Sounds dense, right? But what this means mathematically is just that researchers use linear regression to map the high-dimensional feature space of the AI onto the high-dimensional voxel space of the brain. They extract the principal components, which are basically the core structural weights of the data, and they align the axes. By transforming the AI's internal geometry to match the brain's biological geometry as closely as possible, they can run a direct dimension-by-dimension comparison. This lets them see exactly where the structures actually overlap and where they completely diverge.
Breaking it down logically, it happens in 3 exact steps. Step 1, we identify the reproducible dimensions in the target brain using those repeated, noise-filtered responses. Step 2, we let the source, now this could be an AI model or another human, predict the target responses, creating a unique mathematical subspace. And step 3, we map the source's predicted subspace directly against the target's biological reference to see exactly where they overlap. You can think of this whole process as creating a custom, highly detailed fingerprint for how the brain reacts to an image, and then strictly checking if the AI's mathematical fingerprint contains those exact same ridges and whorls.
Which perfectly leads us to Section 4, the recovery profile.
So, all of this complex framework math translates into a highly readable visual signature called the recovery profile, and this is built using a metric called top K reference coverage. Let's use a fun analogy to really grasp what this means. Imagine you hear a cover band play your absolute favorite song. Getting the tempo right, that gives them a good overall accuracy score. But this metric goes deeper. It asks, did you recover the bass line? Did you recover the vocal melody? Did you nail the guitar solo? It measures the weighted fraction of those critical leading dimensions that the AI actually successfully predicted. Because look, getting the tempo right is great, but if they completely miss the guitar solo, are they really even playing the song?
The data reveals exactly how the brain's biological reference weights stack up. You'll notice the cumulative reference weight curves rise incredibly steeply across early visual cortices, specifically areas known as V1, V2, and V3. For a little context, these are the parts of your brain that handle early visual processing. We're talking detecting basic edges, stark contrasts, and simple geometric shapes way before the information moves deeper into the brain for complex object recognition. This steep curve proves that the brain's core reproducible signal is actually highly concentrated in a relatively small number of target reference dimensions. That's a huge deal. It means an AI doesn't need to predict millions of scattered data points. It just desperately needs to hit these critical leading structural dimensions to truly align with human vision.
Okay, Section 5, exposing hidden model mismatches. This is where things get wild.
So, the big question, do our top AI models actually hit those crucial dimensions? Well, we are about to bust the long-standing myth that a high prediction accuracy score automatically equals a highly brain-like artificial intelligence. In this matched case study, we have a fully trained VGG16 vision model sitting right next to an untrained, totally random model. Notice how their scalar accuracy scores in the bar chart are practically identical. It looks like a tie, right? But examining the profile coverage graph tells a totally different story. The trained model recovers vastly more target dimensions than the random model. Accuracy completely hid this discrepancy. How is that even possible? Well, random models can basically spoof a high accuracy score by mathematically capturing high variance, unstructured noise perfectly on average, while entirely missing the specific, locked-in geometric structure of genuine human visual processing.
The results here are just staggering. The researchers found that a shocking 79% of pairs between pre-trained models and random models that appear to be completely tied on their prediction accuracy actually have vastly different recovery profiles. 79%. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that a single score is wildly insufficient for telling us if an AI is truly learning to process visuals like a human being.
Let's look at the hard data from the research appendices to prove this isn't just some fluke in one specific model. This table shows completely different AI architectures, from standard convolutional networks like ResNet 50 all the way to modern vision transformers like VIT-B/16. In every single case, the pre-trained profile mean is significantly higher than the random seed mean. Take the vision transformer, for example. The pre-trained score is 0.770, while the random score plummets down to 0.513. But crucially, look at that random SD or standard deviation column. The random models show higher volatility depending on their initial seed state, whereas the pre-trained models have learned a specific, locked-in alignment through massive exposure to image data. The underlying architecture provides a starting point for sure, but the actual training is what forces the model to recover those deeper, consistent, human-like visual dimensions.
So the crucial point, if you take nothing else away from this explainer, is exactly what the researchers conclusively put here. Prediction accuracy alone can mask model-brain mismatches. An AI can predict the brain remarkably well on average, but entirely miss the specific complex neural dimensions that another human brain captures perfectly.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 6, the future of neuro-AI. For all of you out there building or investing in these systems, this is a massive shift. It means you can no longer rely on those simplistic leaderboards. Here are your key takeaways. First, hitting a high recovery profile doesn't magically mean the AI is completely conscious or entirely brain-like overall. It is conditional evidence of alignment in specific visual areas. Second, these profiles give developers an exact diagnostic map. They localize precisely which human dimensions an AI is missing. Going forward, AI models absolutely must be evaluated against reproducible human-to-human references. This research fundamentally pushes the entire field of neuro-AI strictly past the era of single scalar benchmarks, and that is a very good thing.
Now, to be scientifically fair and objective, the paper explicitly notes its current boundaries. Currently, this framework has been deeply validated in the early to intermediate visual cortex, focusing specifically on static images. If researchers want to map higher-level reasoning or analyze complex multimodal data, like, say, dynamic video accompanied by real-time audio, they will need to completely reevaluate the stability of these reproducible references. Biological responses to dynamic video are far more volatile, meaning whole new baseline matrices will need to be calculated before we can accurately score AI against them.
But the necessary groundwork is finally laid, and it leaves us with this incredible provocative thought. If our previously highest-scoring models are actually missing key dimensions of basic human perception, how will we adjust our training to build AI that truly sees the world the way we do? The mystery is really just beginning to unfold, and we finally have the right magnifying glass to see it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the data,